Yeah, I think that's important too. Is like people ask me because my big post is the 106 excuses that prevent you from ever becoming great post with Chris Brogan, right? That was the one like that got picked up by not Think Traffic, Think with Google. Um, the I think the thing like that post for me took 2 days just to come up with the subheaders. Not even forget about writing the pieces itself.
Right.
So I think that that's something like Neil, you have, I mean, you guys, everybody here has done really epic style posts. Like how important, I guess, is it to focus on craft? I guess, and this isn't even on the questions that I sent you guys, but like, how important is it to focus on craft? Because I think that's the big piece that, as everything is starting to mature a little bit more, you know, we're not just feeding search engines anymore, right? We're actually working on people's attention spans, and if you're a bad writer with no craft, then the whole you're just wasting a lot of time in the first place, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely. What I like to do is most of my writing comes from I read another blog post and I'm like, oh, they left out this information, or I wish they had covered this, or I wish they had included this screenshot because I don't know what the heck they're talking about and where they want me to go. So a lot of the posts I've written is just kind of trying to, like, I go out, I search, I'm like, has anyone written a step-by-step guide on how to do this? And if I don't find it, then I'll write the post. And so I think a lot of it's just reading a lot of other posts, seeing what's missing, and then kind of filling that gap.
Yeah. Yeah, and like the other part is like being able to really get your language to guide people through, right? It's not just a matter of going like step 1, step 2, step 3, but like it's a hard thing if you have like a 2,000 word post to get someone reading all the way to the bottom, right?
Yeah, I try to write it. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I try to write it more of a conversation. Like if I was talking, like if I was going to talk to you about like the step-by-step of setting up your Google Analytics, I would write it like I would talk to you about it. So that way they kind of feel like they're reading more of a conversation than a manual, maybe.
Mm-hmm. And Neil, like, yeah, go ahead.
I actually think that's the thing that all three of us have in common, right? John, Christy, and I, we can all write in that conversational mode. And I think that is the key, because when you're writing long blog posts, from what I've seen and tested, unless it's conversational, it's hard to keep throughout reading the whole post. Even if you do that, there's no guarantee you're not going to keep 100% of your readers to read the whole thing, right? Especially if you have a large audience, you're always going to get drop off. But conversational really helps. It's like, just think about it. If you're having a conversation with one of your buddies, you're having fun, you're kicking back, you're enjoying it, you're learning something, you can be in there for 30, 40 minutes, an hour, 2, 3 hours, right, having a deep conversation. But the moment someone puts in a school essay in front of you and you have to read it and it is just dry and boring, like, you're not going to read the whole thing. You're going to try to skip it. Feels me up like, is there clip notes on this thing, right? Or just try to look at the subheadings and like call it a day. But
TLDNR.
Yeah.
Yeah. The metaphor that I like to give people is we're not educators or lecturers in front of a group of students that are like bound in the room. I mean, that's how a lot of bloggers imagine themselves, is that they're teachers.
Right.
But that's really not accurate, because I mean, when you're a teacher, your students can't leave, right? But when you're blogging, they can get up and leave when they're bored.
Right away.
The more accurate metaphor, in my opinion, is that you're a street performer. Just like a street performer in New York City or any big city that you're standing out on the corner. And you've got to be interesting enough and captivating enough where people that are on their way somewhere else will actually stop and be late to wherever they're going because they're so interested in what you're saying. So, I mean, when I'm writing, one of the questions that I ask is, would somebody be late to a meeting to read this? Would somebody let their phone just keep reading to be able to read this? And for me, if the answers to those questions are no, then the idea isn't good enough, the writing isn't strong enough, and I've got to go back and work on it.
Now, how often do you read and reread your own work until you publish?
I mean,
that's everybody.
Yeah, I mean, it's everybody. I think that, I mean, you're always going to write a draft and then go back to it. And I mean, there are some differences in writers. Some writers have to do a lot of drafts, where you write a draft really quick and then you get feedback and you write another draft and then you get feedback and you write another draft. Others are kind of more one and done. I'm more of one of those guys. It takes me a long time to write a draft because when I'm writing, I sit there and think about every word and every sentence. And so, I mean, it takes me 5 hours to write the first draft. But when it's done, it's pretty much done. There may be a little bit of revision to it. And I mean, over time, as I've gotten more experienced, I can tell when a post is going well while I'm writing. So if it's not, I know to quit and go back and fix things. When you're a beginner, it's harder. I mean, the place that beginners struggle the most is I don't think most beginning guest bloggers are aware of the differences between quality content and crappy content. I think they write a post and they're really not sure if it's good or not. I think that's one of the big challenges. And that's why I think it's so important to do the social media espionage and to learn the craft and to really to learn, okay, what is the content that keeps people's attention? So that way when you read your own, you have something to compare it to and know whether it's good or bad.